chapters in the last week. So, and every week, dear listeners, we have a new topic for our discussion. The topic tonight is man does not bear power within, but has the key to it. Man does not bear power within, but has the key to it. You are welcome to join this radio show with your questions and answers. You can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is on the website where we are broadcasting, that is blessradio1, that's the number one, .com. If you scroll down on the homepage, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. I'm going to begin with, what is the Grail message? The Grail message, in the light of truth, by Abdushin, is a spiritual knowledge of life. It offers an explanation of the world, a picture of creation on the basis of natural laws. Its lectures contain valuable basic elements as a help in life. For through the knowledge mediated, the reader is again brought closer to life and led back to God. The Grail message deals with important fundamental questions of life by explaining in a clear and logical way the automatic working of the laws of nature, the whole weaving of creation, allowing every process to be recognized, and thereby the purpose of our whole life. It is directed at the individual and speaks to the innate experiences of the human being, their strengths and weaknesses. Thus, every reader has the opportunity to discover, through the intuitive perception, if what is stated is the truth. Combining with matter-of-fact reasoning, a complete world picture arises, where there is no separation between the visible world and the great world beyond the five senses, nor any separation between scientific and religious striving for knowledge. I'd like to give you a couple of quotes from the author of the Grail message, Abdushin. The hearer and reader of my lectures should always work within himself, keenly probing and building bridges from one lecture to the other, as well as out into the great and small world happenings. Only then will he be able to understand the Grail message and find that it gradually shapes itself into one complete whole without leaving any gaps. Again and again in all the happenings, the reader will come back to the basic features. He can explain everything without having to change even one single sentence. The word of the Grail message lives so that it permits only those people who really carry the honest desire in their souls to find abundantly. All else is automatically rejected by it. For the arrogant and those who seek superficially, the message will remain the book with 7 seals. And I'd like to give you one more quote from the author. I wish to fill the gaps which have so far always remained unanswered in the souls of men, and which never leave any serious thinker in peace, if he earnestly seeks for the truth. So, dear listeners, just to remind you, the topic that we are discussing tonight is man does not bear power within, but has the key to it. You are welcome to join us Let me repeat that again. Man does not bear power within, but has the key to it. You are welcome to join us with your questions or comments by contacting us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. Now, listeners, we always like to look up the meaning of the words. Before I do that, I just want to say today is the 1-year anniversary of the Southport. This is Southport, which is a town in the northwest of England, where 3 young girls, aged 6, 7, and 9, were murdered, and 8 other girls and 2 adults were critically wounded. It was by a young teenager who was obsessed with killing and violence. And these other children who were attacked, they were in a dance classroom with their dance teacher there. And it was a shock for the whole country, you can say. Today is the 1-year anniversary of that attack. And in a way, it is connected with our topic, because we know in today's world we have this social media. And after this attack, there was a number of protests, you could say, not only in Southport, but around there, in other cities and towns as well. And unfortunately, the people were showing disgust to this horrific murder that happened, and thousands came. But unfortunately, also many came who rioted, and they were arrested for violent disorder. But many of them were stirred up by false stories that the murderer was an immigrant or asylum seeker. And in one case, these attackers or rioters attempted to set fire to a hotel where asylum seekers were staying. So you can see one incident through of course it was a tragic event, can lead to even more tragedy and massive trouble. So that is just what I want to bring out. It's almost like when we have wildfire in nature, or even if it's man-made fire started, and then it spreads very fast with the winds and so on, and just scatter and spread so far, and it causes a lot of destruction. So that's the picture I wanted to show, how much human beings the way they can act and the effect they can have, in this world. So now I just wanted to bring that in. As I said, it is tied into our topic tonight. Just to remind once more, the topic we are discussing tonight is man does not bear power, but has the key to it. And I would like, as usual, to look up the meaning of the words in this topic. And I also want to say, listeners, this topic that I've chosen, it is actually a quote in the Grail message, which is almost like a paragraph, actually, or a very long sentence. So the actual quote is much longer than this, like a summarized version that I have used as our topic tonight. And I will quote that in a moment. But Gregory, let's look at the meaning of the words in this topic tonight. So just to repeat one more time: man does not bear power within, but has the key to it. So the first word there is man. And well, I looked it up in the dictionary, Gregory. Let's see what it says. It says an adult male human being. That's the first one. So is that relevant, Gregory, for this discussion tonight? What we are having?
That is being partial. Man
Right.
is taken in general,
Yes.
the
So
human
actually,
personality.
so then the second meaning is more, let's say, appropriate, and that says a human being of either sex or a person. So, what do you say to that one, Gregory? Is that
Yeah,
better?
that's a good pointer.
Okay. And the third one, I think it hits the mark. It says a group or person in. Okay, I'm not quite sure this is quite right. A group or person in a position of authority over others, such as a corporate employer or the police. Um, so, Gregory, yeah, just if you can say your comment on that and maybe put the context of the word that how we want to use it for tonight's discussion.
But it's very clear, the second, when it's referring to the human personality, the human being. That's what it is. When man is used, is referring to the human personality. Very simple as that.
Thank you. That's fine. And that's how we're going to discuss for tonight. So the next word I'm going to, I looked up in the dictionary, the keyword which I felt was the keyword, bear. So that it says, carry the weight of support. Um, is that, how good is that one there, Gregory?
Well, that's more like a description of it, but not quite precise.
Okay. And the next one, meaning in for this word bear, I have endure, in brackets, an ordeal or difficulty.
That's
So,
more like a verb, or I mean, an adverb. It doesn't seem to rhyme with what needs to be discussed.
right. Could you give like a better meaning then for
A
the word
precise
bear?
word will be possess.
Possess. Okay. So let's put that there. Possess. So as we go, in fact, I'm going to just replace the title with this. Not actually. I'll just say it for this moment now. Man does not bear, or a better word, possess power within, but has the key to it. Okay. Let's look at another word, Gregory. Power. And here I've got again three meanings. The first one, it says the ability or capacity to do something or act in a particular way. Is that what we are referring to with the
That
word?
is helpful.
Okay, okay. Let's see what other meanings are helpful as well. Um, it says the capacity or ability to direct or influence the behavior of others or the course of events.
Influence is not power. The
Hmm.
capacity, in fact, is not power.
Okay. All right, let me look at the third meaning, because I think they're just giving, let's say, different angles of the words being used in the way they're used. So the third one, it says, physical strength and force exerted by something or someone.
Well, that is appropriate when deeds are concerned in the earthly perspective.
Right, but I think you're not saying that is sufficient somehow.
I didn't use that because um, in this, but the description makes it very clear that it's earthly deeds, whereas what we need to be considering is more than that. So we have to listen to all the possibilities and move on.
Right, okay, let us continue. So the next keyword I have is within. And again, I have three meanings. I seem to have every time three meanings. So the first meaning of the word within, it says inside, bracket something. Is
That's a
that
very good pointer.
okay? That's good. And then the next meaning for the word within, it says not further off than. And they're saying used with distances, when you use it with distances. Not further off than. Is that any good for us?
It doesn't seem to bring any clarification.
Right. So I know, in a way, I wish I would only pick the ones which are more relevant, because it's like giving you all the different options when they give the meaning, and then some of those options are not the ones we are considering in our discussion. So it's like, in a way, it feels we shouldn't talk about this. Okay, so the next one for within, it says occurring inside, in brackets, a particular period of time. So how is that one, Gregory?
These are pointers which give a picture, though not precise.
Okay, okay. Let us continue. Let us continue. So the next one I have is the word key. It says, is again, there are three meanings. Let me just, before I do that, let me see if there's anything which is more directly relevant. A thing that provides something, a thing that provides a means of achieving or understanding something. Is that a good one, Gregory?
That's the pointer.
Okay. Yeah, the other two I just feel are just too, how can I say, literal in the word key. So I thought they're not relevant to our discussion. Okay. So what I did next, Gregory and our listeners, I decided to do the Google AI search for the whole phrase in our topic, which is,
Sorry, before you continue, that word key,
yes,
one can use another phrase for it, access.
access. Okay. Let me make a note of that. Okay. Good. So the key like gives you access. Yeah. Okay. Now let me. Yeah. So what I did for the discussion, I looked at the whole words in the topic and did a search on that in Google, so to see what it will come up with. So this is the title: Man does not have power within, but has the key to it. And it says and this is Google AI. It says it suggests that while humans may not inherently possess inherent power, they have the capacity to access or unlock it. Oh, this is sounding much better. This key is often interpreted as faith, belief, or a connection to a higher source of power like the Holy Spirit or divine grace. Berkeley, what do you say about this, could say, description of this?
So much is put in there, and one has to take it step by step, because so much has been
Right.
joined together.
Okay. Let me say it in a few words, and then you just tell me what you think, what you want to say about it. So it says, while humans may not inherently possess inherent power, they have the capacity to access or unlock it.
Well, what is happening, there has not been any precision. When power is mentioned, is it physical power? Is it non-physical power? It has been used generally. Some may even talk of electrical power, which many has access to. So that precision is not there. It's not
Okay.
referring to the species per se. And that is why one says the whole phrase is not adequate enough to point out what one needs to discuss.
Okay, so let's do that. Let's clear this now. So what type of power are we talking about
In
in
this
the
in this forum,
yes,
the basis has always been that which is spiritual, and
right.
therefore it is the spiritual one should start from.
Okay, so that power must be spiritual. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Um, and then
Because
let's
if we are talking of ordinary power, like you have the diesel, which is
yes,
satellite, or electrical power, that's not what we're referring to. In
yes,
this case, there's the possession of power, albeit spiritual power. That is what
right.
is referring to.
So in fact, Okay, let's take that, go into that one. Um, so we're talking about spiritual power, and we human beings are supposed to be spiritual beings or spirit. So that sounds that even the spiritual power, according to this topic, is not really belonging to human beings. It's something that somehow they receive. That's what it, even though it says spiritual power. So, Gregory, can you explain that? We human
Well,
beings are, yeah,
that is why at the beginning one queried it and said, is that the appropriate phrase? Because to get what we are dealing with now is your paraphrasing, whereas the real phrase is different. And
okay.
one
Th-
hopes that you will mention a real phrase and
Yes,
clarity will come.
I will thank you for that. And I will go straight there. So, I want to remind the listeners the topic we have chosen is from a quote in the Grail message. So, I'm going to, which I have paraphrased, as Gregory has just reminded me. So, for this reason, I'm now going to actually read out the actual quote, which is from the lecture in the Grail message. It's volume number 2, lecture 56, and the lecture is called "In the Realm of Demons and Phantoms." And this is the actual quote. It is important, however, to know that man does not bear this life-giving power within himself, but only possesses the key to it in the ability of his intuitive perception. Thus, he is the steward of this creative forming power which works in accordance with his volition. For this reason, he has to render account of his stewardship, which he exercises every hour. So, dear listeners, that is the actual proper quote, which I have reduced, must say, for this topic for discussion tonight in the radio show. Let me just repeat it so that it's in case the listeners didn't catch it. So, again, just to remind everyone, this is a quote from the Grail message in the lecture "In the Realm of Demons and Phantoms." It is important, however, to know that man does not bear this life-giving power within himself, but only possesses the key to it in the ability of his intuitive perception. I'm going to actually stop there, just because that we just need to take that in. Um, so, Gregory, from this sentence, this power is being referred to as a life-giving power. And is that the same? Is the spiritual power?
It's referring to spiritual power.
Right. It is.
It
Okay.
is because when you complete the whole phrase, you will find where it is pointed out is able to have access to this life-giving power through its intuitive perception. And the intuition is intrinsic to that which is of spirit.
Okay. Okay. So, uh, and listeners, just to remind you, in case or those who have not heard of this, so we human beings are spiritual beings, and which and that and every spiritual being has this intuition. Is Gregory's point? It's inherent within us, human beings or spiritual beings, and that intuitive perception is able to direct this life-giving power. So it's um, I think that's we can say is the basic definition and understanding of what we are discussing tonight. Um,
Correct.
Now, I want to, before we continue further, because this topic is really a massive topic, before we continue further, I'd just like to let the listeners know that you're listening to Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program. The aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Abdushin. If you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that: www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. And just again to remind everyone, the topic that we're discussing tonight is man does not bear power within, but has the key to it. If you wish to join in this discussion with any questions or comments, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 079 39 641 958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 0044 79 39 641 958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And there's one other way to contact us, which is going to our website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1.com. And if you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in your questions or comments. Now, Gregory, we've basically established, and listeners, what this topic is about. It is the power, which we are calling spiritual power, which we human beings do not have this power within us, but we have the key to it. The key, or which is, we can use the word access to it, and this access is via the intuitive perception or intuition, which is inherent in every spirit. So I think we've given the framework, like Gregory, we like to say that we have a framework in which we have to examine this topic, and that is that framework. Now, let me just see what okay. Yes, let me see what we can do with the power. What is this life? Actually, Gregory, I was going to ask something about this life-giving power, but we've already said this is spiritual. I was going to say, is the power God? So let me say it another way, Gregory. Isn't the power coming from the Almighty God? Because surely, or is there different levels of power? That maybe there's God's power, you can say, and then we are spiritual being, and so there's on our level it is called spiritual power, and then there, as we know from previous radio shows, there are other beings in different, you could say, planes or spheres, and then they would be working in their region of their type of power. So quickly, so let me just ask the question again: is this a power that we are discussing tonight? Is it, or maybe you can give a bit of explanation about the powers, Gregory. Is it the same as does it not come, the spiritual power, does it not come from the Almighty? That's what I would like to check.
Within creation, one will find that before creation came into existence, that power was already there. And the direct radiation of that power formed the so-called divine realm. When creation came into existence with that which is now called let there be light, power is associated with light. And in that case, indirectly, that power streams from on high. Since we are limiting our discussions to occurrences within creation, then in that case, that life-giving power is not directly from the Almighty, but came through a source in accordance with the will of the Almighty. It is that power that streams in creation that man has access to in accordance with his capabilities which have been sown into it.
Thank you for that answer there, Gregory. So yes, we are seeing that according to the world you're in, there is a power that streams through there, and obviously it is used in that level of that region that it is there. And if you are, let's say, as you were saying, if somebody is from the divine, they will be having the access to the design, or be retrieved divine power coming to them. So yes, so that now, and because we are talking about human beings or spiritual beings, then that is spiritual power that in this we are discussing in this show tonight, in this context. So thank you for that. Now, you've mentioned, Gregory, we are human beings can access this power. I wanted to say, is it not just access alone? Is it not also that you can direct it? So, and that's what I wanted to check. So, can we, human beings, through, because we have used this word volition. Let me ask first about this word volition, Gregory. What does volition mean? Is it our wishes, or is it something else?
It's more of the urge, the deep inner urge.
Hmm.
One has to consider the species. When spirituality is concerned, then this becomes an urge to be able to accomplish a specific task. That is what one may call a volition. I have this volition to accomplish a task. I have this urge to accomplish a task. So one can use volition and urge, an inner urge. One may not say wishes because most of the time those wishes, or when wishes are mentioned, it concerns our thoughts and our activities here on earth, physical activities, but more so about our thoughts. All these happen in the world of matter.
Thank you for this answer, Gregory. So there's like, again, the way I'm seeing it, there are different levels of, you could say, activity, and because we are talking about the spiritual activity, which works on a higher level than you could say, the earthly activity. So when we are talking about volition, and which is also, you can think of it as inner urge, as you have said, that is different from our wishes, which are more earthly, of earthly nature. So that's we are distinguishing that. So now, yeah. So thank you for that. So the next question I want to ask is, um, we've said that we have access to this power, which is the word key. We've used the key, but in my mind, I thought it's not just access. You can actually direct it, meaning according to your, we've used the word volition, according to your inner urge, you can direct this, we're saying, spiritual power to a particular direction, Gregory. So is it, is that not the case, that it is more than just access, we actually can direct it?
Of course, but it needs a bit more explanation to gain clarity. Power itself, the life-giving power, resides with the source, and it remains there. However, the radiations that have been brought into being through this power is what percolates as streams, which streams, sometimes people call it life-giving power. But power itself, the life-giving power itself, is independent, but its radiations, one is repeating this, percolate streams through creation. And through the innate ability of the human personality that has the free will, through its urging, is able to make contact. To make contact only means it resonates if the human personality in its vibration, in its deep urging and vibration, resonates with this power, then is able to absorb it. Not only absorb it, is now able to subsequently make use of it to carry out or to fulfill certain tasks in accordance with its urges. So, yes, it's able to direct it, but before directing it, first it needs to be able to resonate with that power, to be able to absorb it, and then make use of it. There are some who are able to resonate, or to some extent, no matter how weak, to resonate with this power, and therefore they are able to absorb it. The question is that, do they make use of it in accordance with the will that permitted this power to stream down into creation? That is a different discussion altogether. Therefore, you are right to say they're able to direct it. But direct it for what?
Thanks very much, Gregory, for explaining this concept and or process of how we direct the spiritual power, and even again providing a wider context that yes, you can direct it, let's say, in a particular direction, let's say to do, I'm just going to introduce this way, to do good, or to do bad, or something, let's say, in the middle, whatever that might mean. So, but the point is, yes, you have that ability to direct it. However, to have the proper context of it, is that what you are directing, is it, you could say, beneficial or harmful, or is it in line with the will of the Almighty who made this creation, you know? So it's not like, or we do whatever we wish to do, or whatever our urge, as we mentioned, there's an inner urge, we just follow whatever the urge is. There are always, as we know, consequences to our actions. And so that has to be borne in mind in whatever decisions that we make, through our urges or otherwise. So all this picture has to be, we need to be aware of it. So thank you for bringing that out, Gregory. Now, yes, my next question, Gregory, is what are we meant to do with this spiritual power, or power that we're talking about, life-giving power? What are we meant to do? Maybe the clue is in that name, life-giving power. I don't know if that's what we are supposed to do. So yes, what are we meant to do when we have access and we have the ability to direct it with the power?
Very simply, that which the human personality is able to have access to, that is referred to as the life-giving power. That means having absorbed this radiation that streams through, they have to be used for activities in accordance with the will of the giver of these life-giving power radiations. So, in absorbing this through resonance, one needs to make use of it. And in making use of it, it should not be done in an arbitrary manner. Therefore, the human personality needs first, through its own urges and activities, grasp aright what the will of the Almighty is, just as He has received of these radiations through His own abilities. It was not received directly. That which the human personality has received came through others that lie higher than itself. Because they lie higher than itself, they are able to receive a higher dose, in quotes, a higher frequency of these radiations. And in making use of them, in accordance with the will of the Almighty, they have passed it on to those who are below them. Now is the turn of those who have received of this radiation to absorb it, to make use of it, and pass it on to others who are below it. They pass it on only through the activities they have engaged in. Just as others have received and passed it on to him, such that it's of benefit to it and of benefit to creation, so is he himself or herself to receive of that, make use of it in accordance with the will of the Almighty, and radiate it to others. Then and only then will it have fulfilled its tasks.
Oh, Gregory, can you hear me? I just want to make sure. I think somehow we
I
got
can
cut off.
hear you, but you were
Okay,
off.
we're all together. Okay, I thought we lost the connection. So, yes, thank you, Gregory, for what you've explained there about that this power, life-giving power, that we spiritual beings, human beings, have the, you could say, the gift of directing. However, there's, you could, we need to direct it in accordance, like you say, with the will of the Almighty, the one who, how can I say, is the original source of the power. So then the question arises, what is the will of the Almighty? Um, um, you gave a little clue, I think, Gregory. You said the power, let's say it has come from above and it has been passed down to us, and it seems like we are not the only ones. So there's people, let's say beings below us, human beings, and we now pass it on to them as, you know, like a continuation. So is that right, Gregory, what I've just said there?
Yes, you are right.
Okay. So the next, I'm thinking then, so as I said, we have to know, the idea is to work in accordance with the will of the Almighty. So how do we realize what is the will of the Almighty, Gregory? Is it, I don't know, is something that we just, is there some signal that we receive somehow that this is the direction we are supposed to send this power? Um, yeah, how do we know what is to get to know the will of the Almighty?
Again, the will of the Almighty is not arbitrary. Many who consider things without the right framework which had been hewn into creation, through which they themselves came into existence, consider things to happen by chance. That has never been the case. The will of the Almighty lies in the processes which have been hewn into creation from its very beginning. And that will is represented in the laws of creation. The laws of creation which have remained the same from the earliest beginning. They haven't changed. These laws of creation may also be categorized as the laws of motion, because it is through motion that these radiations that stream from on high were able to get to the human personality. So one can see the sublimity which is hewn into it. In that case, many will now ask, what are these laws of motion? Though they themselves are a precipitate of the power or of the energy in creation, they still ask questions. What is this power? What are the laws of creation? What are the laws of motion? These things, these questions do come up. And very simply, one may observe that motion in itself is ubiquitous, is everywhere in creation. However, any motion in creation may be reduced to two very simple types. That motion in which the end flows back to the beginning, that particular type may be classified or categorized as that of reciprocal activity. So the human spirit in creation that is striving to become conscious, striving to become self-conscious of these motion, must grasp it very clearly that the end of that scenario where the end of the motion flows back to the beginning is intrinsic in all its activities. That is what generally is referred to as reciprocal action. But that reciprocal activity only manifests within the same species, and when considered from the same species, that is referred to basically as the law of attraction of homogeneous species. That same law of attraction of homogeneous species, one may also categorize it as resonance. So here we are in our discussion. You are able to hear our discussion only through resonance. So resonance occurs in all earthly activities where one is referring to similar or equivalent species. So in that case, the human personality that is striving to become self-conscious will generally become aware, become self-conscious of these two laws, that of reciprocal activity and that of resonance, which is what is referred to as the law of the attraction of homogeneous species. And there is the other, in which the end of the motion does not flow back to the beginning. Again, that is basically referred to as spiritual gravity, because that which does not flow back to the beginning in this motion must be of a species which is different, one that has sunk lower because it is heavier, and that is where gravitation comes in. In this particular instance, spiritual gravitation, having hammered through its activities again and again, in its experiencing in different realms, it becomes very clear to it for the human spirit, which is striving to become conscious. It will now, in its activities, in accordance with the will of him that permitted it, that means in accordance with the will of the light, it will now harbor within itself the strong urge to work in accordance with this will. That means it will now cultivate within itself this earnest good volition. Good volition because it has received, and in faithfulness it radiates. It will also harbor and cultivate love, love which is everlasting, and that persistence to serve. Why? because those who radiate to it from who are higher and radiate to it, they have that everlasting love, and they are very persistent in radiating to those below them, such that those below them will come to know what joy and happiness is. They will also have the patience. That patience in the sense that those who are below them, it will take time for them to awaken to the consciousness of their existence and subsequently to self-consciousness. That is what those who are above it, the human personality, that is what they engage in. So they themselves will cultivate patience and perseverance. Above all, there will be that of absolute selflessness and dedication. That's again in accordance with those who are able to allow these radiations which they have received and have made use of it to percolate to them, human spirits who are becoming conscious of their existence, of their environment, and subsequently in cultivating these talents which have been sown into it to become self-conscious. These are the urges which they have to now internalize in order to be able to work in accordance with the will of him that granted it. Now, these talents, in simple terms, one may call the virtues. So this is what man has to cultivate. There are simple examples like one uses in the case of music. Many a person listens to a piece of music and it's so moving. Many a person uses, other than music, visits a farmer and we find the farmer has used the abilities that it has within it to cultivate crops, which is of benefit not only to it but also to others. Again, the intuitive picture comes in, one for all and all for one. That is the task which the human personality must cultivate and retain such that it becomes a useful tool in accordance with this will of the light.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this picture that you've been painting for us about how we are supposed to become aware of the will of the Almighty, and which is to know to work in His laws. And you've pointed to the abilities that we carry and the, and what things that we are meant to develop, like virtues, like you said, so that we fulfill our task in creation. We are one creature in this creation. Other creatures, let's say, almost we can use the word automatically do what they're meant to do. But in our case, there has to be a conscious decision, you could say a free decision to, participate in this world, where we are, like the phrase says, all for one and one for all. So we are we're not here just for our own sake, to just, in quotes, enjoy or work for ourselves, but actually work with the others that are also there. which may be not be very apparent for us, but that is really the true task. So that shows there's this big world that we need to be aware of, that where we exist, and and so knowing our abilities, yes, part of the job is that. Then of course you apply them, but that's not sufficient, because you also need to know, who are you working with, and what is expected from us. So all these things are, you could say, necessary understanding we need to have. So thank you, Gregory, for this picture that you gave us. Before we continue, I want to let the listeners know that this is Bless Radio, and this is the Tuesday evening spiritual discussion program from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time on Tuesday evenings. And the aim of the show is to introduce you to the spiritual knowledge in the light of truth, the Grail message by Uprushing. And if you wish to know more about the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that: www.grail, Grail, message, message.com. And the topic that we're discussing tonight in the show is man does not bear power within, but has the key to it. Man does not bear power within, but has the key to it. If you have any questions or comments on this discussion, you can contact us on our UK number, which is 07939641958. You can call, text, or use WhatsApp. And if you're outside of UK, it is 00447939641958. Again, you can call, text, or use WhatsApp. There's one other way to contact us, which is by going to the website where we are broadcasting. That is Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1.com. If you scroll down on the home page, you'll see a box called Bless Chat. There you can type in any questions or comments. And we are broadcasting, as we've said, on Bless Radio, the number 1.com. You can also listen to us on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and type in the search box Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1 again, space, Grail message, space, the topic that we're discussing tonight, which is man does not bear power within, but has the power. Let me repeat that again, sorry. Man does not bear power within, but has the key to it. Man does not bear power within, but has the key to it. And after this show, you can listen to a recording of this show with exactly the same search words in youtube.com. Just to repeat that, it is Bless Radio 1, that's the number 1, space, Grail, message, space, man does not bear power within, but has the key to it. And of course, you can listen to recording of our previous shows also on YouTube. Thirdly, we are broadcasting on Zeno. That's ZENO.fm/Bless Radio 1. Sorry, let me get that right. It's Zeno is ZENO.fm/radio, then /Bless Radio 1. That's the number 1 there. Now, Gregory, what I'm seeing is we human beings have been given this, like we said, access an ability to direct this spiritual power. Um, Now, we're supposed to listen, we have this inner urge, which can be called volition as well, and we're supposed to, that urge must align with the will of the Almighty, which can be also seen as the laws of creation that are operating. This, how the creation works in these laws. And as you mentioned, another part of the human life is to develop. When we started life, actually, we were unconscious spirit beings or germs, excuse me, or spirit seed, you can even say, unconscious, and the aim is to become conscious, not only unconscious but even self-conscious. And this, how we do that, each world that we pass through, and as we, in quotes, make decisions on the way, we are led in a particular path, born on earth here to certain parents, and which is giving us the opportunity to grow here. So all of this, I will say, we are not really aware. On this earth, we don't know, that we existed already before we were born. We are not, things happened then there that led us to us bringing us here. In our other shows, you would have got to know that there's even something called reincarnation, meaning that we have been on this earth previously in another life. And again, that is invisible or hidden from us, or at least we are not conscious of all of these things. So, and then even to discover our talent, it is all a process of discovery, a journey. So this is, you could say, a short summary of this human experiencing. And the idea is, as I say, to learn to become from unconscious to conscious to self-conscious. And that means, obviously, on earth, we are being born to our parents, or there's a guardian looking after us, guiding us in a sense. And then we become adult. We are supposed to be let loose to choose our own ways from there, and go on our own path, you can say. Now, what I'm wondering, Gregory, in this scenario, what sort of guidance do we have? Is it, I know we've mentioned this intuition, but does it sort of tell us, go this way, that's your talent, go and do that? Does something speak to us like that? Or is it really a discovery? You tried this, let's say, I know you like to talk about music as an example for explaining these things. So let's say this, when you're young, you are not aware what is exactly your future path going to be. At school you'd be learning different subjects, and then some things, of course, you'll be good, and others you will not be so good. And then you'd say, okay, what I'm good, that's what I should be moving forward with that. But I was thinking, can we have like I don't know if the right word is premonition, or some sort of prompt to tell you that this is your path for the future? Or is it all meant to be just try this and or try that, or even your parents could be directing you, do this, because you might not, they would say, go into this particular activity, whatever that happens to be. For example, let's say football is another example, that you don't think of it, but your parents drive you there, and then you just somehow get into something like that. So my question is, Gregory, do we already have like a set path, and something is prompting us to follow this path? That is what we are meant to do, or is it like a discovery? I'm good at this, so I should just move forward with this.
When a human personality incarnates on earth, it has been born to the earth, the first tasks it has to accomplish is to know how to make use of the tool that has been granted it. That tool is the physical body. In the initial instance, you find it is completely helpless, but it has to adjust itself to the challenges of the physical body to know how to make use of it properly. Subsequently, it is not alone, it needs to learn the language, if possible, of the parents so as to be able to communicate. Once it has achieved that, then whatever is available for it to learn again to enhance its communication beyond its home will be the next step. It is when it gets to a certain age of maturity that some pictures will start, some pictures like an urge will start staring gradually deep within it on the path it may need to follow in future. And these pictures come in gradually. It is not that it's so very clear and therefore it's going to jump into it. That never happens. In a gradual manner, it is led. When one uses the expression, it is led, it means there are others that lead it, not only the parents, but also the neighbors, whether the neighbors are in school or wherever, but also that all that is able to communicate with or to receive from, which are physical, which have an impact on it. But also there are others who are able to influence it just as he himself was able to gradually learn the language of his parents. So if he or she is observant enough, in a step-by-step fashion, these urges, these deep inner urges manifest and gradually is able to decide for itself the paths it needs to follow. The challenges are sometimes that depending on the culture it has incarnated into, some of these cultures are quite repressive and do not grant it that outright possibility to make decisions which will be beneficial to it. You find it needs to mature in accordance with the will of the Almighty, then it becomes very clear that it must be able to choose freely, must be able to make use of its free will to determine the paths it needs to follow in accordance with the inner urges which it has.
Thanks a lot, Gregory, for this answer. Uh, it shows that everything happens in a step-by-step manner, and it's not like you know what is going to happen 10 steps later. That's not how it happens. And that way, what you could say, we're supposed to live in the present, not jump to the future. So, in all of that, when you think, reflect on these things, you will say, yes, it makes sense. Because, yeah, if you know the goal, fully open, know the goal already, you will now maybe leap so far ahead that in the end you will not even get anywhere near the goal. But if only one step is open in front of you, which you can see, that's more the way forward. So thank you for this explanation. Now, Gregory, let me just repeat the quote that is so the topic tonight is, we are saying, man does not bear power within, but has the key to it. So this, listeners, is actually coming from a actual, let's say, paraphrase of the actual quote in the Grail message, which is in lecture called "The Realm of Demons and Phantoms," and the actual quote is, let me just make sure I have it in front of me. Right. Yes, here we go. It is important, however, to know that man does not bear this life-giving power within himself, but only possesses the key to it in the ability of his intuitive perception. Thus, he is the steward of this creative forming power, which works in accordance with his volition. For this reason, he has to render account of his stewardship, which he exercises every hour. So, Gregory, when we look at this, you could say, phrase or paragraph, to get the, you could say, the full picture of it, we have been given the key, which we call access to this, using the power, you can say, with the ability of the intuitive perception. And then, let's say, with that, we direct it in a particular direction, using with that. And then there are what we call consequences. You do an action, and in science, they say there's a reaction, or another way you can say there are consequences. You make a decision, and then there will be a consequence from that. So for that, it means now we have to be responsible or accountable for what decision we have made, or action that we have taken. What I'm wondering there, Gregory, we do, of course, we do make decisions in our life, and then let's say we don't all we know. Let's say that there's sensing there would be a consequences of making a decision or taking an action, but somehow how can I say, we might have an expectation that we should see the result, let's say, within a time frame that is, what we think, which might be, let's say, usually quite quickly. But in reality, it seems not to be that quick, the reaction or the result of the consequences. So I wanted to understand that, Gregory. When we, let's just think of, let's say, in the world, let's say we put out this, we produce plastics, which we know are not recyclable, or they take millions and years, or maybe even billion years to decompose and then be usable in some way. And also we know that this is causing a damage into the oceans and elsewhere in the environment. So my question is really, Gregory, it seems that when we make decisions, the consequence, and then by that time you've probably forgotten what decision you had made. So is that how this, how can I say, the, and we know that's one of the laws of creation in nature, you can, or let's say nature, or how Jesus put, what you sow you shall reap. But it seems the timetable of the return, the results, seems to be a very long time. And as I said, by that time you have even forgotten what decision you even made or action you took. So in a way, I want to ask Gregory, is there a reason for why is this thing actually result consequences taking a long time for us to see? Let's say like that.
It is because in the perception of the human personality has not been taken into consideration aright. That which is spiritual decisions, their reciprocal activities are immediate. Sometimes these reciprocal activities will need to move within the spiritual realm or within that particular scenario, and the consequences are very clear. However, when the radiations of that which is spirit, when it has an impact on that which is non-spiritual, and that which is non-spiritual as such, in which we have the world of matter, due to its densification, it takes a longer time to manifest. So you may have a spiritual decision, but the consequences or the manifestations of these spiritual decisions takes a longer time to manifest in, say, in the world of matter. And that is why it seems that it takes forever. That is not the case. For the simple example where you have in the case of thunder and lightning, in which that's the thunder and the lightning, they set off at the same time. You can already perceive the lightning visually, but the effect of the sound comes later. So there is a delay, but it's happened at the same time. It is the same effect that you have in the world of matter as regards spiritual decisions. So that is in part the way the human personality should consider it. And it's not that things are delayed, for specific reasons, and that before the human spirit realizes it, it takes a long time. That delay is also beneficial to the human personality. For consider the scenario where it has taken a wrong decision. The effect has not yet manifested in the world of matter, albeit on the earth. But subsequently, before long, it then dawns on it that it has taken the wrong turn. and strives vigorously to make amends. In doing that, it strives to improve itself. And in that fashion, we build a shell about itself, or will ensure that in its activities, the ethereal environment about it, in its thoughts also, become lighter, such that when the reciprocal activity strikes it, when it strikes, for some, it will bounce off. It will not have a strong impact on the individual because it has brightened its ethereal environment or its immediate environment through its activities. Whereas, had it not done that, the reciprocal effect would have had a much stronger impact on it, which would have sent him back centuries. But having now improved itself, you find that the reciprocal effect is less. So, in that sense, that delay in the reciprocal activity manifesting, and that has permitted it, having recognized its wrongdoing and has made amends, that becomes a blessing to it. If, however, it has not taken time to reflect on its life and has remained in that same state, then most likely the reciprocal activity will strike him in such a severe form and he will be in shock. So it is the task of the human spirit in its striving to ensure that that which it engages in is of benefit not only to itself, but also to its neighbors. By neighbors, one is referring not only to fellow human spirits, but to nature in particular and to creation in general, just as much was received by those who stand higher than itself and they have made use of it, compose music, build structures which are durable, so that it can make its journeys. That's why you have things like airplanes, or in the field of medicine, it is the task of the individual to also absorb of this radiation, to make use of it such that it's able to also radiate through its work to others who are not as privileged as he himself has been privileged to have access through its activities to these particular radiations. So in that case, you will find, because it's able to radiate that which is joyful and full of happiness, many others will pick out from that, from his good or from his or her good examples, and do something likewise.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this answer. I really like that when you're talking about the consequences of a decision or actions coming to us in this earthly world, uh, because you could not delay it, but it takes longer, the, let's say, than what we expect. But then it is giving an opportunity for us to, if it is something wrong that we have done, it gives us because it's taking longer. In that time, we might realize, oh, that is wrong, and then we can change our ways, and then the consequence of that decision will be not as you could say, harsh or severe as it would have been, because we have to realize that this was not the way forward. And so, yes, you can't avoid the consequences. So you know that you do an action, there has to be a consequence. Uh, and then, in fact, that is not even in your control. You just have, the only control you have is taking actions and decisions, but the reactions are not in your control. And but the other thing that is, like I say, like you said, you pointed out, when it takes longer to come to the reaction to come and hit you, in that, by this time you could change, if especially if there's something wrong, you could find that that what is not right, and you might no more be the same type of person as you were when you actually made the wrong decision, you can say. And then the blow of the fate, if I can say like that, would be a lesser blow than the severe one that would have hit in originally. So yeah, that was very good to see that. Um, and you also mentioned, Gregory, because as we know, every time this world and life is not about ourselves alone. There's also other fellow human beings here, or even in the beyond. And when we do some decision or actions, it affects these other people too. And there could be even an opportunity, you know something the others don't, and you can help like this, and vice versa. So that's what makes this world, you could say, a very exciting place to be, if you see it in the big context of what is happening. Now, Gregory, I have a question on sort of on that line. Um, Now, certain people, Gregory, are more, it looks like, more able than others. And I was wondering, does that mean that some people get the opportunity for the having more power? I mean, this, when I use this word power, let's say if we're talking about ruling a country, then let's say it could be that there's a king or queen running the country, or it could be the prime minister or president, depending on the system the country is under, and they would have, in quotes, more power than the ordinary member of the public. And then they think, and you can see they can make big decisions, which the ordinary member of the public is not in that position. So my question on that, Gregory, is that to do, when that is, that, I know we are not talking about, in quotes, spiritual power in this particular scenario, but could it be that this power, let's say, looking at these earthly scenarios, that some people are given more than others, uh, like in a way to rule and so on, and is if um, yes, let me ask that as an initial question first. So, is some power given more to some than others, Gregory? And I'm talking on an earthly level at the moment.
For many who see these things, maybe they haven't reflected deep enough. Instead of using the word power, one should leave that aside and say these individuals have been granted the opportunities of greater responsibilities. And these ideas of greater responsibilities have only arisen in accordance with the will of the Almighty that permits them in love to be able to serve, or to serve aright. For, in quotes, to rule is the same thing as to serve. To serve selflessly, to have the good volition to serve selflessly. So, if those who are in such positions have been granted the opportunity to serve selflessly, means they have greater responsibilities, and this great responsibility did not come in an arbitrary fashion. For some, it has been that there are many a reciprocal activity which they themselves must redeem. And in accordance with the will, have been placed in specific areas such that they will be able to exercise that of good volition and do things rightly. In that sense, you may find some of those who are advisors to them, some of those are even much, much matured than them, but lovingly have been placed around them to advise these individuals who now have a lot of responsibilities, and if worked out aright, they are able to redeem themselves. But very sadly, here on earth, to consider that because one is a prince or a king or whatever they care to call themselves, that they are better than others. Far, far from it. It has been opportunity granted this individual to make use aright of that which has been granted them first to redeem themselves. If they consider it along such a line, then many an opportunity will open itself. For if they go along such a line, then humility in all things will manifest. Then you will find that compassion will automatically arise within them, and they will become vigilant and alert, in the sense they won't want to miss out anything which in reciprocal activity will form an entanglement on their part. So the idea or the notion that many harbor that they are better than others in this case has no basis, because many an elderly person or a younger person only needs a shorter experience such that it can sever itself and swing itself upwards towards the spiritual realm, back home as a self-conscious human personality, whereas others still have so much they have to redeem themselves. It is the wrong impressions or the wrong notions which many have cultivated, and that is why they consider it that way. That even your own child, you are only granted an opportunity to mold, to support this particular child, to study the nature of the child, to be of help to the child just as others, seen in flesh and blood, and others not in flesh and blood were of help to you, such that you will experience and mature. For he or she who receives of the radiations of responsibilities must make use of this in deeds, in thoughts, and in intuition to be of help, not only to himself, but also to others. So the web, the spinning of the threads in creation are not only intrinsic, but are so well spun as to make it simple and easy for the individual to sever itself in accordance with the will of the Almighty. Whether it is able to do that is a different story. If, however, the human personality sets out in simplicity and is filled with compassion for others, then the possibility is there that there are others who will also have compassion, will severe on him, and working hand in hand, trust for trust, confidence for confidence, is able to unburden himself so as to be able to sever himself when the time comes, the time granted for maturity on earth, when the times arrive, so he's able to swing himself up.
Thanks very much, Gregory, for this explanation and picture. Um, um, it's really the world we, how can I say, have come to recognize or realize is this: everywhere there's, you can say, help and there's opportunity, and but we human beings are the ones who make a decision if we want to work, use this help and opportunity to, as you can say, benefit not only us but our fellow human beings. And until that picture is, you could say, implanted within us, these things, we will not really say act in the right way, you can say. And so what I would like to do now, dear listeners, we've come to the end of our show, of our discussion on the topic of man does not bear power within, but has the key to it. And I hope you've enjoyed the discussion. And I want to read, because this topic title that we picked, it is actually a paraphrasing of the actual quote, which is in a particular lecture called The Realms of Demons and Phantoms. And I would like to now end the show by reading, a section of that lecture, where the quote is given, and plus the section around it, you can say. So to give it, you could say, well, we always, when we read like this, unfortunately, sometimes it's hard to follow because it's in the middle of a lecture or something. So it's not the beginning page, it's somewhere in the middle of the lecture. So, but I would just like to share that with you, the listeners. So I'm now reading from the Grail message from the lecture called In the Realm of Demons and Phantoms. If men would only just open themselves once, so far as to be able to perceive what a treasure rests in creation for them, a treasure which should be discovered and unearthed by every human spirit, which means that it should be used consciously. The neutral principal power that I have so often mentioned. It makes no distinction between good or evil, but stands outside of these conceptions. It is simply living power. Every intuitive volition of a human being is the equivalent of a key to this treasure chamber and makes contact with this sublime power. The good volition volitions as well as the evil volitions. Both are reinforced and animated by this power because it immediately reacts upon the intuitive volition of the human spirit, but only upon this and nothing else. Man determines the nature of the volition, this being in his hand alone. The power as such brings neither good nor evil, but is simply power, and it vitalizes what man has willed. It is important, however, to know that man does not bear this life-giving power within himself, but only possesses the key to it in the ability of his intuitive perception. Thus, he is the steward of this creative forming power which works in accordance with his volition. For this reason, he has to render account of his stewardship, which he exercises every hour. But he unconsciously plays with fire in these matters like an ignorant child, and therefore causes great damage, as a child is apt to do. Yet he need not be so ignorant. That is his fault alone. All the prophets, and finally the Son of God himself, tried in their parables and teachings to enlighten men on this point, to show the way they should take, and how they should intuitively perceive, think, and act in order to tread the right path. But it was in vain. Men continued to play with this tremendous power entrusted to them only accordance with their opinions, without listening to the warnings and the advice from the light. Ultimately, therefore, they will bring about the collapse, the destruction of their works, and also themselves. For this power works in a completely neutral manner, strengthening the good as well as evil volitions of the human spirit, and thus will not hesitate coldly to wreck the car and its driver, just as happens when any motor vehicle is badly driven. Surely the picture has now been made clear enough. Through their volition and thoughts, men direct the destiny of the entire subsequent creation, as well as their own, without knowing anything about it. They further either progress or decadence. They can achieve either development in the fullest harmony or that wild confusion which now reigns. Instead of building up in a reasonable manner, they waste their time and energy unnecessarily in a great deal of petty trifling. Intelligent people now call this punishment and judgment, which is correct in a certain sense. Yet it is men themselves who have forcibly brought about everything that must now happen. I'm going to stop there, dear listeners. That was a section which I was reading from the lecture in the Grail message called In the Realm of Demons and Phantoms. And if you wish to get more information on the Grail message or want to get a copy of the Grail message for yourself, you can go to this website, which is www.grailmessage.com. I'll spell that, www.grail, Grail, message, MESSAGE.com. Now, thank you. Gregory, would you like to say anything to the listeners to say goodbye?
Wishing listeners a beautiful week ahead.
Thank you. Same from me, listeners. Have a beautiful week ahead. We'll be back next Tuesday. Hopefully we can start on time, and I apologize for that. We had some issues again, but hopefully we'll be fine on next time. So we're starting on Tuesday, next Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time with another topic. Good night and God bless.